You're quiet. How
All
do I
right.
make you loud? I have horrible hearing. Hold on. Settings.
In the first
Okay, that's
little,
better.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
cool. I can hear you perfectly anyway.
You got what?
I can hear you perfectly
Okay.
anyways.
Okay.
Uh maybe if I, because the first one that I had done whenever it didn't switch between,
Mm-hmm.
my voice was really loud, so it just looked like you were being interrogated by some really loud voice.
Nice. All right, this is better. I've got it all the way up on mine now.
Cool, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to hear about the flying because when I'd met you, when was it? About
2016. That was
2016.
2 years before I started flying.
Right, right. And you're just touring across the states. So what made you want to start flying planes?
It was so random. I was bartending at a restaurant and I liked it, but I started to feel like I needed something more. And one of my regulars was a pilot. I'd known him for like 3 months and he just started telling me about his job. And he said, there's a huge pilot shortage right now. I was like, I just like felt all these bells and whistles go off. I was like, that's what I should do with my life. And I just went for it. Like 2 months later, I was enrolled in flight school. And a year from that moment, I was able to quit the bar and be employed as a flight instructor. It was
Right.
just like that. Yeah. I finished school in 10 months.
10 months. 10
Yeah.
months. Right, right.
And like I
Um,
was in an accelerated program, but anyone can do it in less than a year. It's a little bit of hours, but really it's about proficiency. So if you're in it every day, just like I don't know, getting fine tuning your motor skills and studying every day, you can get it done so quick.
right. And is it like are you flying commercially now, or what how does that work?
So technically, yeah, I am a commercial pilot, which means I can be employed. I do not work for the airlines. I don't actually have enough time for that. You need 1,500 hours. I have about 1,200. Um, so what I'm doing is working for a private charter. So I'm flying like little jets. They're like a shrunk down airliner. They're really sweet. They're fast. And these people like own these planes, and the company I work for, it's like, okay, we'll manage your aircraft, we'll make sure the inspections get done on time, and then when you want to go somewhere, we give you the pilot, we arrange your hotel if you want, like anything. So we kind of manage that part of their lifestyle, and then yeah, I just fly them and hang out in random cities while they do their thing, and then we take them home. It's so
Right.
fun, I love it.
Right. That's pretty interesting. So there was a pilot shortage. I suppose maybe there
Mm-hmm.
still is a
There
pilot
still
shortage
is.
in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yep.
so it's like private jets kind of
Hmm.
thing.
There's a shortage everywhere. In the airlines, there's a shortage because they're to work for the airlines, they're very stringent. Like you have to have a college degree, your hour requirements very high. I've been flying for 4 years and I have 1,200 hours and I'm still not qualified in the airline world. And they also, it's only the airlines that do this. They force you to retire at age 65. They don't want you flying the massive airliners anymore. You can still do other things in aviation. They could still do what I do. I work with guys that are like 67, 68, but that's part of the reason there's a shortage. And people just use flight travel so much more, exponentially every year, other than the pandemic, to get around. So the whole industry is booming. They need flight instructors too. There's a flight instructor shortage. I did that for a year. That was my first job, was teaching people how to fly once I got my ratings. And that was how I built a lot of time. But as soon as you're finished with that, you want to move on. Like it's the lowest end of the totem pole in the world, and it's low pay, and it was fun. I loved teaching, I loved my students, but it didn't pay very well. So that's like a huge reason why there's a huge flight instructor shortage. They just do it for the bare minimum time, and then they go find something else. uh, so yeah, there's issues all through the industry, but I've read a little bit on some forums about some ideas people have to like help that. Like, for example, United just they no longer, or was it Delta? It was Delta, I'm sorry, no longer requiring a college degree to work for them, which I think is good because I don't have a college degree, but working to the level as flight instructor to me feels like a master's in aviation. It just doesn't look like that to your average person. But I mean, I studied really hard and then I was allowed to teach people to fly. I mean, I don't know why that wouldn't be considered something to Delta, but they just changed their minds. So hopefully
Right.
that'll help.
That's pretty good. And where were you based throughout the past couple of years?
I'm still in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I've lived here my whole life. This is where I came home to after I met you. And yeah, we have this big airport here, the Raleigh Durham International. So I've been flying there the whole time. That's where I trained. That's where I'm based now. Yeah.
Had things changed for you much from the start of the pandemic? Were there less flights, less work like at the beginning of it, or?
Yeah. So as far as the flying goes, I heard through, I wasn't flying at the beginning of the pandemic, and I heard that it was like scary quiet. Like the couple of planes that were flying were like massive airliners that they were just repositioning to sit and be parked for months. I heard that a controller at RDU said that it was worse than what 9/11 did to the industry. Like there was less traffic, there's less people. But for me, I actually wasn't flying. After I left the flight instructor job, I was actually waiting tables again. I was looking for something better money. Honestly, I wasn't making enough. And so I'm waiting tables and flying like on the side with this guy named Lauren. He did what I'm doing now, like aircraft management, and he had a private jet that he owned that was on a charter. And so he was training me, but it was really like minimal. I was waiting tables 6 days a week and just flying with him when I could. But because of the pandemic, it actually worked in my favor. I lost the restaurant job immediately and was able to get on unemployment, which I'm curious if you had that opportunity where you live. So I want to ask you about that later.
Hmm.
But I was receiving unemployment and then able to train like 5 days a week. And I was receiving income. So it was like perfect. So I would go to ground school and this guy, Lauren, would teach me all about his jet. And within about 4 months, so it was like June or July of 2020, I was able to take a test and became a first officer on his CJ1. So technical term is I got my like 525 type rating as SIC. So that was cool. And then after that, I just was like, I'm not going back to the restaurant. So I stayed with Lauren, and as his first officer, we were flying medevac. So I would be getting like calls in the middle of the night to go pick up organs, and it was a little slow at first, but towards the end of 2020, we got more and more of these calls. And then we spent 4 months flying used COVID tests from Colorado all the way
What?
to North Carolina. Yeah, like big garbage bags full of them. That's kind of weird and a little scary because like we didn't have the vaccine yet. And yeah, for whatever reason, it wasn't even a contract. It was supposed to be a contract, but we never signed anything. They would just call us at the last minute and say, can you do the run tonight? So I'd leave Raleigh at 4
Use
p.m. We'd fly all the way to Colorado. Now in the jet I was flying, it was small. We had to stop. We had to get fuel in like Kansas or sometimes Iowa. We'd go all the way to Denver. We'd load up like hundreds of pounds of big garbage bags full of used COVID tests. Like may or may not have COVID all over them. Put them in the back of the fucking plane, and we'd fly home. And we'd do it throughout the night. So I would get home at like 4 or 5 a.m. I'd go back to sleep. And I was doing this for 4 months. And then for whatever reason, that deal kind of like fell out. Maybe they found business elsewhere or stopped doing it. I don't know what they were doing with the
they
test.
get caught doing something dodgy from the sounds of
I don't
things.
know. I don't know.
It's what is it kind of
Isn't that
would that be like medical waste or when it's
Um, I don't know. We passed them off to someone who worked in some office. I guess they were studying them, so they handled it from there. We were just transporting them to get them from one state to the other. But why would they not be able to use COVID tests in North Carolina? Why did they need to come from Colorado? I don't know. It was weird. But that was my job for 4 months, and I was just like, all right, whatever.
right? That is it's a strange one, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So COVID gave me the opportunity to get my type rating. It gave me a lot of work. And when we stopped flying the test, then I went back to just primarily organ flying. I did a little bit of passenger flying with this company, but mostly organs, and mostly in the middle of the night. So that's why I'm much happier with this job. Like, I have a better schedule. I work like during the day more now. I'm not flying from midnight until 6 a.m. anymore. That shit sucked.
yeah. That's rough. I've worked nights before, and
Hmm.
it's okay for a short period of time, but it takes its toll. It takes its toll
Hmm.
for sure after a while. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, no, the pandemic helped me out more than most people. Um, I was lucky to be able to get unemployment so I could pursue my dream. Cause like without the pandemic happening, I would have been maybe 6 months to a year longer trying to get this
right.
type.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I had
Yeah.
all the time and I was able to pay bills. And so which worked out. And I really liked working with this guy, but the quality of life with the charter stuff, it just wasn't good. It wasn't right for me. And then slowly but surely, I just wasn't getting enough work. And I think that was kind of more on him. He had, I don't know, he just, I couldn't work enough to pay the bills with it all being like a random, just like on call. Can you work right now? Can you work right now? It would happen sometimes 10 days in a row. Sometimes it would happen 3 times a month. It was totally unpredictable. So
Right.
that's why I left that company and then did the same thing. I found another bartending job for a couple of months. And while I was there, I found my current position that I started in November. And I love it. I'm going to probably stay with them for a while.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
What was it? Did things change much on the ground there in Raleigh
Mhm.
with COVID? Like, was there? It's like here, it was for the first couple of weeks anyway. It was pretty intense. Well, actually, for the first few months, it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Um, but what kind of changes did you see at the beginning of it? Uh,
It was interesting. I had just moved into the house I'm in now. I'm living in the middle of downtown Raleigh. Like maybe at the end of this, I'll take you outside and show you. Like I have a whole skyline right here. So I moved in, and like 2 months later was the shutdown, which happened for us on March 17th. Was that for you in Ireland?
Yeah,
Did they shut
it was
everything
the
down?
first March 17th is
Yeah.
our national holiday, St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
And it was the first St. Patrick's Day ever, I think, where the bars were closed. Yeah, so that was at the start of it.
Wow.
I don't know if it was the 17th or the 15th or 16th that it closed.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, they shut it down here. And so being like in the middle of downtown now, I mean, I live on a quiet block, but it was just eerie. I'm living in a place where there's normally like a good amount of traffic, foot traffic, bars, lights, people, everything. And I was one of the only people that was still leaving the house. I was still working. I was still doing things with the flying stuff. And it was just so weird how little there was on the ground to like no traffic, no people. It was so quiet. And then surely you heard about, all those riots that happened in the summertime, just a couple months
Yeah.
later. So the really, really bad one, the first big one, I had been at the beach with my family and we were driving home that day. And, my parents and I, we all live in the same city, but I was starting to read the news and I was getting phone calls. People are like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Like, I was like, "I'm not home. What's going on?" And so things were bad, like right in my backyard, right in my backyard. Now they were only targeting businesses, but I didn't feel safe going home that night. I stayed at my parents' house, and that was really scary and heartbreaking. Like thinking, like,
Mm.
oh my God, is my house going to be destroyed when I get back? And nothing was, but I live catty corner, like kind of a block and a half from the start of some businesses, some restaurants. And so like the damage started right there. It was like no more than 2 blocks from my home. And I saw firsthand, there's a big conspiracy rumor, and I don't mean to get into politics, but this one was interesting for me. Everyone said, oh, there's all these random bricks that are being just laid
I
out.
had
And
heard about that. I had heard about
yeah,
that and seen the images in I think it was in Sunset Boulevard or something in LA where there were these just
yeah,
piles of bricks
yeah.
like
Yeah, I
fuel for
saw that
riots.
here. It freaked me out. I was like, holy shit, this is real. I'm just like, there's a whole fucking pile of brick. Like, I'm looking around. I'm like, where did this come from? Is there a brick building that just fell out? Like, it didn't add up. It was so weird. And I
So there
really
was
did see that firsthand.
sorry, there were riots in most cities. Like there was one there in Raleigh as well, and
Yeah. Yeah. It was heartbreaking. Like, businesses that I visit, like, everything smashed in, and like through social media I'm reading the updates of, first off, people who went out there was people who went in the middle of that to try to either help or stop it or just see what was going on, not like believe the news, like I want to look for myself, which was dangerous. I didn't do that. And then yeah, business owners spoke out. Like, some of them were standing in front of their business, like asking people, please don't smash my window. Some of them did not go and had to like assess the damage the next day. Some places are forever changed. Like, there's actually a pharmacy that's in our downtown like grid, and they're not going to open, I don't think, ever again. I think that it was just looted so badly. They're out of money. It's still a construction zone right now to this day. Like, there's scaffolding all around it. I don't know what they're doing with it, but it hasn't been open since summer 2020.
hmm.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
it
that's the
changed.
thing. It's with the lockdowns and people, a lot of people being out of work and then just trapped on their own. Especially, it was
Yeah.
okay for us here. I live in a very rural town, so it's quiet, and because it's not a city, could be walking around and you'd be talking to people. It's not quite as isolated, strangely enough. Even though there's less people, it's kind of less isolated because like I was talking to a friend of mine who was living in Madrid throughout the whole thing over there, and he
Oh,
was
wow.
basically stuck in his apartment for months, and your only connection, and thankfully we had it, was the internet, that you could talk to people over the likes of Skype or Zoom or whatever. But with the riots, that was after a big lockdown already, so people were going crazy, I suppose. And there was just the
Yeah.
spark. I suppose it was George Floyd's murder, I
Yeah.
suppose, that kind of triggered
Yeah.
that.
That's what he's being tried for, murder, I believe. Or possibly even convicted at this point. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think so. Yeah, um, yeah, uh, crazy, crazy
It
times.
was so crazy. Your friend in Madrid, so he not even like see a neighbor? Not, no, he literally
Um,
didn't leave his house for, that's wild.
he he had he has a dog, so he was allowed to take the dog out for a walk, but I think they were only allowed to go around the block basically, and there were police patrolling the streets, and if you didn't have your identification, well, I think that's a rule in Spain anyway. If you don't have ID, the cops can well, they'd be looking for it and they can arrest you. I think if you don't have identification. Um,
Wow.
intense. So yeah, pretty crazy there. But um, were you able to meet up with people throughout, or were you kind of on your own, just working and home and working?
Yeah, so besides seeing my boss for the classes, or private ground school, whatever, we honestly did socialize a lot more than we were probably supposed to. But I've lived here my whole life again. So I have a really tight group of friends. Some of us have known each other for over 10 years. We all live nearby and we're just really close. So there was a group of about 12 of us that would see each other regularly. And we didn't really, I don't think, go outside of that. So there was just like a few friends' houses that I would go to. Obviously, we weren't going like out, but and I went to the beach a lot. And I didn't get like personal shade or insulted because of that, but like there was
Yeah,
people who would kind of post very generally like, I can't believe these assholes are,
going to the
going out in
beach.
public.
Yeah,
I felt like the beach was one of the safest places to be. And it was, I mean, I needed it. And it was summer. And like, I mean, I'm a beach junkie. You can see how tan I am right now. Like I go all the time.
yeah.
So and the beaches were fucking empty too, which was awesome, but weird. Um, so yeah, I mean, I was doing that and I was just trying to make the most of it. And amazingly, not a single person in our group got sick. Um, Everybody was working from home except for me as a pilot, and I had one friend who was a nurse. She actually passed her boards during the pandemic and went into her nursing career during the pandemic, which is kind of wild.
Right.
But yeah, so she was in our little COVID crew. And yeah, none of us had any issues with it. We had a couple close calls when people started going back to work, like with the restaurants, but like we'd all get tested, we'd all be okay. None of us got COVID until the Omicron variant came around, and that was this past New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
They still had a big a big show. I live 2 blocks from a major music venue in Raleigh. So we all like partied and walked to and from the shows. And then we all I never tested positive. I tested negative, but I had symptoms. So I'm pretty sure it was false negative, whatever. Yeah, we all got it at the same time and we're all okay. And it took us 2 years to get it. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
interesting. There's people that were in contact with people that had it and managed to avoid it. I got it in at the end of September, start of October in 2020, and
Wow.
uh,
Was it bad?
no, I got it at a sports class that I was at, and I was working on the boat along with my dad, my brother, and another guy. And I got a message from
Mhm.
one of the guys that was at the sports class saying that he had tested positive and just that I should be wary, you know. And
Yeah.
almost immediately after that, I started feeling symptoms. But it
Wow.
was one of those ones where you're sort of going, is this just my imagination? Like, or do I feel symptoms? But then I'd say for about 2 days, I was feeling just kind of not 100%, kind of weak and achy.
Mhm.
And then we got back home from the trip that we were on, and I was eating my breakfast, and I realized that I couldn't taste any of it. So then I went and got tested, but that was it. I had no taste or smell for probably about 2 weeks, and then after that, grand.
Wow.
And after the 2 days of feeling a bit achy and not 100%, I was fine as well. So got away lightly, but I had passed it on because I was on the boat. I had passed it on to my father and my brother and my dad. I'd say he would have been the worst off
Oh,
out of us, but say it was maybe 3 or 4 days of him not feeling too great and then fine after it, which we're quite lucky, I suppose, because
yeah.
other people haven't been so lucky. But one of the things at the start was or at the start of the summer is about taking vitamin D, and that's one of the weird things you're saying about going to the beach.
Yeah.
um they had closed the beaches here. They
Mm.
had the I don't know who, because we live in quite a scenic area. It's beside the sea, and there's a city about 30 minutes away. And
Mhm.
whenever everything closed, the people from the city would be coming down to the beaches. So everybody was freaking out that there were people coming from the city over
Mm.
and bringing COVID, and the council
Mm.
had put like big cement blocks at the entrance to the beaches to stop people from going to the beaches,
That
But
makes me sad.
yeah, it was rough. And as you say, you said you didn't catch much shade for going to the beach, but that was one of the things at the beginning, was
Yeah.
that people were on social media giving out about people going out and doing things. We had at the beginning there was a 2 kilometer radius from your home that you were allowed to travel,
Wow.
and yeah, that was that was very intense. But at the beginning, we were all everybody was freaked out, and everybody went along with it. It was like, right, we just stay in our homes for a little bit and let this pass, and the hospitals can catch up and all. And then we had the whole summertime where things kind of opened up, and then after that, we thought that the government would have maybe spent some more money in the health service so that the hospitals would have been able to cope with things,
Mhm.
but then they didn't, and there was another lockdown. So
Wow.
ours just finished.
Mhm.
Really,
Do you know anybody who works in healthcare around there?
um, I have some relatives. I have a cousin of mine who's works in a hospital down in Dublin, but I haven't had much conversations with her about what it was like in the hospital at the time.
Yeah.
Do you? I suppose your friend who had started into the nursing when.
Yeah. Yeah, just her. I know her the best. There's a couple girls I worked with at one of my restaurant jobs that went on to be nurses that I kind of follow their social media but don't speak to them much. But they all seem to be on the liberal side of, just wear your mask, just do what they say, all of that. But the
Mhm.
one that I know the closest to me, she hasn't really made it sound like the hospitals are as bad as the news makes it sound, but I wonder if maybe that's just her floor. She works in the ICU, so that's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah,
But
there
yeah,
was.
I don't know, she doesn't talk about it much, but the little bit that I ask when I ask, like she seems to think that it's manageable and maybe a bit exaggerated in the news, but that's just here. I don't know what the other big cities are like.
Well, during the lockdowns here, there was that craze going around, the viral video thing. The Is it the Magdalena or something like that? Some sort of dance thing where there was people doing this dance, and the country was on a very strict lockdown, and the Gardaí, which is our police force, they were doing this dance, and it was a video that had gone viral while everybody else is locked in their home, and they're doing it in different places around the country. And there was also a hospital somewhere down the country, and they were all doing this dance as well, and it was like, it's kind of strange. Like, everybody's locked in their homes, and in a hospital, they're
Yeah.
dancing around. I'm not like, I mean, it was one hospital, possibly it was a rural hospital where there weren't that many people, but it was just one of those things, as you say, like, um, but in Ireland, every year, around September, October time, there's flu season, and we've always seen on the news that there was a trolley crisis where there weren't enough beds, and people were just lying out in trolleys in the hallway for hours, days at times. Like, so yeah, it's hard to know. The That's why I wanted to kind of do this, to talk to people, and see what it was like in different places, because you see on the news that it's like, oh no, it's all Ukraine and Russia. It's like, COVID's gone. I don't know if COVID's gone there in your news cycle, but here it's just like, COVID's gone, and now look at Russia and Ukraine.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like we're still getting a lot of information about COVID on our general. I don't watch the news. It honestly, it makes me very upset, and
I I
you
think
really
that's
don't
why
know
it's. Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot about Ukraine and Russia, but we're still talking about the pandemic quite a bit here. We lifted the mask mandate in my state last Friday, was it Tuesday? Like less than a
Yeah,
week ago.
it
Yeah,
was. It was. What day is this? Thursday. I think it was Monday. They lifted the mask mandate here.
really
So yeah.
interesting.
Uh, but it was funny because like they it was about a month ago maybe they had stopped it in for a lot of places. Well, you could go to a bar and you're supposed to wear a mask when you walk into the bar, and then whenever
Hmm.
you sit down, you take off your mask, and you
Yeah,
might be sitting there for how many hours, and if you get up to go to the toilet, you put your mask on again. That's what you're
yeah,
supposed to do, but like again,
hmm,
rural Ireland, not very many
yeah.
people would have bothered with that. But there was that, where you could go to a bar or a restaurant and sit, and then in schools they had masks on kids from, I don't know if it was like 8 or 10 years of age up. Um, it's
That
yeah,
was
it's
a
hard.
rule.
Mm,
An
I,
8-year-old.
I
Wow.
don't know of the ages. To be honest, I haven't been following the people would, as you weren't watching the news. People
Yeah.
would tell me what the things are, what the regulations were, but I think they had brought it in at the either the beginning of the winter or just after the new year, where they were making it so that younger kids had to wear it. I don't know if it was 8 or 9 or something like that. I need to check that out. But yeah.
That's fine.
Um, oh, what was I saying there?
Were you able to get unemployment or did you lose your job when the
Uh,
shutdown happened?
I work. I'm an oyster farmer with my family. It's family business, so
Cool.
we we were still working throughout because it's a living thing. So we had to tend to it, whether there was demand or not. But we were still selling consistently, but in smaller kind of amounts, So it was a wee bit of a pinch, but it was fine. We were able to get through it. But there were supports available for people in non-essential uh, industries or whatever, hospitality and all. But it's even that title's weird, non-essential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but there was a pandemic unemployment payment, and people were getting, I think it was €350 a week. So like some students that would have been working, part-time jobs in hospitality would have been earning more money than they would have been before. But it was just a blanket sort of thing, which I suppose is good. But there's also the thought, where is the money coming from? Because
Yeah.
there used to be, the government would make a budget, and they would say we only have a certain amount of money for this and a certain money for that, and that's why there was a trolley crisis in the hospitals every flu season. And then all
Wow.
of a sudden, there's a whole heap of money to hand out and give people tests. I think there was, I don't know how many million, six
So
hundred or something.
€350 a week. Did you think that was fair? Or you said some people that was kind of like a raise for them based on what they were doing before.
Yeah, well, it would depend on where you're living. There higher cost of living areas like in the cities, that probably wouldn't have been an awful lot of money because rent is crazy high in Dublin and Cork and Galway, um,
Okay.
and it's increasing in the rest of the country. But you would have been able to, you probably would have been able to live fairly comfortably
Hmm.
in rural areas
Hmm.
on that. Um, if for a single person, and then I don't know, with families, there probably were other supports. Ireland is fairly good for the social welfare benefits and that.
Okay.
I don't know, what was it like in the States? You were able to get the unemployment benefit, and
Hmm. Yeah.
does it differ by state?
Uh, That is a good question. Probably, but I don't know. When I applied for it, I feel like it was like a state-run website. So yeah, I don't know if they were getting, but yeah, what I was getting was it was more than I was making at the restaurant job that I lost because of the shutdown. It was incredibly comfortable for not having to spend it on much of anything
Well, that's
besides
it.
like for grocery.
There was nothing to
Yeah,
do. Just buy
yeah.
food.
I wish I had saved more, but I developed a serious alcohol habit.
I think that's you're probably not the only one.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I think we all have. It's kind of wild. And yeah, but yeah, I was getting 950 a week US dollars. So I don't know what
what?
that
950 a week.
isn't that ridiculous? I know. It was like a lot. I was like, whoa. And everyone was pissed that it was more than they were making in most jobs. Everyone was like, wow, wow. Like we're getting paid more to sit on our ass right now. And so now we have this huge problem in America where nobody wants to work and everybody is hiring and everybody's looking for bodies. And I don't really know where all these workers went. It doesn't really make sense to me. Now, I left the restaurant industry to make my career happen, but I still came back to it. I mean, I've worked bartending jobs 2 times now since I got my first license. So I just keep having to go back to it. That's my fallback if I'm looking for something else. But yeah, really strange. Yeah, everybody's hiring, everybody's desperate, especially the restaurant industry. But I mean, there's shortages, aviation shortages, nursing shortages, and I mean, God, I could go on forever about my theories of overpopulation. But yeah, that was a weird one. They took incredibly good care of us, um, and then yeah, I just stopped, and I had my aviation job lined up. It fell perfectly into place. The unemployment, I stopped receiving that December of 2020. I logged my 1000th flight hour on Christmas Day. So as 2021 happened into the new year, I just was employed again. So again, reiterating, everything with the pandemic worked out so fucking well for me. I'm very lucky. I feel horrible. I know that a lot of people struggled really hard through it. And I mean, I definitely had hard times and emotional struggles and things that I'm still kind of feeling today. But overall, it benefited me, weirdly enough.
yeah, well, there's quite a lot of people that I've spoken to that that really had there. That's the thing. I mean, there's always going to be good points and bad things,
Mhm.
good points and bad points to everything, and there were undeniably a lot of good points. Like I was quite lucky here. I'm staying in a house with a friend of mine, and whenever the first lockdowns happened, another friend of ours was going to university down the country, and because university was shut, he stayed with us. So there were the three of us, and the weather for some reason at the beginning of it was just unreal, like for Ireland. And
Really?
we were out in the front lawn every day, just kicking about a football or messing around. So we had a we had a pretty good time at
Good.
the beginning of it, and then it
Yeah.
started to wear a bit thin, like. But
Yeah.
uh,
I'm glad that you were able to make the most of it for like some parts of it.
mm,
I feel like a lot of people did that. Like we're stuck with this situation. How can we make it better? And that's why I was going to the beach. I can't
yeah,
believe they wouldn't let y'all do that. That breaks my heart.
yeah. I don't know for how long that was, um, because it was March that the lockdown came in, and it must have been probably around the end of March or start of April or something like that. It's also hazy now, and it seems crazy that it's been 2 years. It's it will be 2 years now in 14
Yeah.
days time
Yeah.
that lockdown was. And it kind of just flew by as well, weirdly.
Yeah.
Um, but where do you think it's going now? Do you think you were saying that there's they're still talking about it over there. Is it still that they're trying to get everybody vaccinated? And
Yeah, most people I know are vaccinated. The majority. There's only two people I interact with day to day that are not. My boyfriend is terrified of needles, and I do have one friend that is kind of buying into this conspiracy, and who knows, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but she believes that if she gets the vaccine, she may not be able to have children one day. I don't know where she heard that. She started to believe that very quickly after the vaccine came out. So to me, that's not logical. Like, how could they possibly study it for just a couple of months and be like, oh, it's going to affect the reproductive? I mean, I don't know, maybe.
mm,
But I don't give a shit about having kids. So I didn't care. I got the vaccine because I didn't want to lose any more work. It's like if I get the vaccine, I have to take 2 days off work to recover. That's an FAA rule, flight rule.
right,
If I
yeah,
get COVID, I have to take 2 weeks off work so I don't infect anybody, and I couldn't afford it at the time. So everyone, yeah, so they are talking about it. They really want people vaccinated. They're making it difficult for people who are not vaccinated to have any fun, or even work is becoming a challenge. And a lot of people felt like they took away the mask mandate too soon. The North Carolina, all of my state is a really good mix of political party. Inner cities, like where I stay, is more liberal. People are like, wear your mask, take care of everyone, da da da. As soon as you leave those city limits, it becomes very more like rural, and more conservative, and more like my choice, my body, my choice stuff. So um yeah, everyone's been fighting about it.
yeah.
Everyone's fighting, everyone's opinionated. I don't know. I
Can't
try to
stay
stay
out of
really
it.
neutral on that stuff, and just like look out for myself and what's like in front of me right now.
Yeah,
And but
for
yeah, they should
sure.
talk about it a little bit more, like
Uh-oh, what happened there? Are you there? Mm-mm. Oh dear.
here.
Uh,
Um,
for some reason, it had just cut off there. I didn't
oh,
catch the
it's
last
okay.
maybe
I got
15
a I got
seconds
a
of it.
notification I had a bad internet connection, but I think it's better now.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm connected. I was just saying, I think that um they left the mask mandate longer than they needed to around here, but a lot of the locals think that they got rid of it too early, and I don't
mm,
know. I don't know.
yeah. I suppose you'd have to determine what kind of difference it was making in terms of
Mhm.
transmission on a sort of population basis.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there are some studies into it, but it was interesting just with the talking about the vaccines and them mandating it. I remember hearing a little while back that the I don't know if it was United Airlines or Delta or something like that that they were bringing in a mandate, and then there were uh, flight disruptions. In the media were saying that it was because of weather or something, but there was also rumors that people were protesting that they were bringing in the mandates. Do you know much about that or?
Oh, I do remember that. I didn't think of it about the vaccine mandate. They did make it, I believe, a statewide rule. So maybe this infiltrated the whole country. If you are a company that employs more than 100 people, everyone has to be vaccinated. I saw a lot of people lose jobs over that. Like, I was in the restaurant at that time, and we were a restaurant that employed more than 100 people, and a lot of people just like that lost their jobs, and that frustrated me because, like I said, everyone is desperate for help. Like, we're already short staffed, and then like with the vaccine mandate on top of that, we lost more people. I thought that was a bad move. I understand it, but it sucked. It had a lot of like negative repercussions.
Mm,
um as far as like the airline stuff, yeah, I do remember when that happened. It could have been because of that. The aviation community is very conservative. It's a lot of like older people, at least with the airlines, all the captains are older guys that are more just, yeah, conservative in nature, conservative in politics. And that side of the spectrum tends to not want
Right.
to follow government stuff. So that very well could have been a thing. But I mean, I think there was some weather issues up north, like that might have been around the time of a snowstorm. That might have also been true.
Mm,
And there's been aviation shortages for decades now, so that's also I think it's all the things.
mm. Uh,
Um,
the truckers protesting up in Canada. Have you heard much about that on the U.S. news?
no.
No, I
The
suppose
what
you don't
protest?
you truckers. We would call
Oh,
them lorry drivers here in Ireland. I think they call them lorry drivers in the UK as well. But
okay.
yeah, truckers, truck drivers. The Freedom Convoy. It was in the news a bit here, where the Canadian truck drivers had done a convoy driving across, I don't know what section of Canada, and then they were in Ottawa and they had blocked some crossings. I don't know if they're maybe that's with the a border between the US and Canada. My geography of that area is terrible, so I'm not too sure. But that
Okay.
there was protesting there, and then Trudeau had frozen their bank accounts because of
Okay.
it, and there were people donating money to what do you call it? What do you call that? It wasn't Give Send Go. That was the one they moved to. The first one was
Are you trying to think of a city or
no, it's a website that you can donate money for charities. Like somebody puts up a thing. They're
hmm,
looking for donations, and
mhm.
they had uh, they had taken the money from that people who donated money, and they decided that it was an illegal protest, and they stopped it. So I don't know, but
Hmm.
it was they talked about it a little bit in the news here, but not so much.
I'm kind
Um,
of Googling it a little bit right now as I hadn't heard about that. But yeah, that's interesting. It really makes me sad that people are so against getting the vaccine. Like I think that social media and people being able to like put their opinions out there like that is why everyone's making it such a big deal. And I
mm,
mean, we've all been vaccinated against our will as infant babies, right? Like
yeah, that's it.
we already have vaccines.
I I think I can see both sides, you know.
Hmm.
As you say, like I was vaccinated as a child against a whole heap of things: measles,
Yeah.
mumps, rubella, hepatitis C, B. I don't know. I don't even know all of the ones. And as far as I'm aware, it has done me no harm. Um, but I think the speed with which it came out was strange for people, you know, that it's just like there's the virus and now we've just come up with it. I don't know, there's the technology seems to be that's allowing that to be a possibility now. So
Yeah.
who's to say? But usually there is a process, and that process takes years. And the fact
Yeah.
that they've fast tracked it, I can understand that people would be a bit wary about that.
Yeah.
Um, what you were saying there about the conservatives and the places outside of Raleigh saying about my body, my choice.
Right.
What
Yeah.
was quite interesting was there was the abortion referendum in Ireland a number of years back, and that was the slogan that was used
Yeah.
quite a lot here, and that would be, I suppose, on the more liberal side, and I was for that as well. You know, my body, my choice. So
Right.
you know, if you apply that logic to this situation, uh, it it kind of makes sense, you know, because it is a medical. Yeah. not really a procedure, but it's no, you're getting
It's
injected with
invasive.
something. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I totally
Um,
understand. Yeah, I guess the nurse friends I have teach and preach herd immunity. So I guess that's why it's like with the abortion thing, like that doesn't affect anybody else, but supposedly not having the vaccine is affecting your whole community. That's how the variants are happening. I don't know. Um, I want people to have the right to choose. I don't want them to be forced into it. And they're not
mm,
forced, but like they kind of are around here, just like not being able to get certain jobs and
yeah,
not that it's narrowing in. So
yeah, it's kind of
yeah,
it's
we need to figure
coercion. It's not forcing per se, but
right.
coercion. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So
mm,
yeah, that doesn't really seem right, but I mean, I feel like I'm for it. I don't know. Yeah, that's weird to think about. I guess I feel like it would benefit the community as a whole. And yes, I see what you mean also about the speed of it. I've talked to some trustworthy sources that say it happened quickly because normally when they invent like some new medicine, anything like first they invent it, then they ship it off to the FDA or whoever, and they like do their little tests and they're like, okay, yeah, I think this is good. They send it back. That whole process takes like a year, and rather than it going back and forth, they all collaborated in the making of it. And that's what sped it up. So that makes sense to me. I don't know if that's true, but it makes sense in my head. So I like to just think that makes me feel better.
yeah, that's it. It's interesting, and it was a weird thing to try and keep track of. And as you say, with social media, when you're, I suppose they're keeping track of the types of people that are liking and responding, and they feed people the things that they're inclined to respond to.
Yep.
So you get these echo chambers forming, and it's tricky. It is tricky.
Yeah.
Um,
No, they give you the algorithm. Like it's someone told me, I was just talking to someone the other day about how even like a dating website will give you the faces of the people on the website, like based on your algorithm or like based on what you look like. There's a fucking algorithm for that. It's not even like random. I was like, no, that's fucked up. Like they're controlling everything. It's so scary, Luke.
it
It's so
is.
scary.
It is, and it's kind of, as you say, time ignorance is bliss. You know,
Yeah.
do you want to really know about that? And I think there was a lot of people were drawn into this because people had time. You know, they were sitting at home, bored, sitting scrolling in their phones, whatever, and
Yeah.
you can fall down a hole. And with that, where they keep suggesting things like, I don't know, do you go on YouTube often?
Not much. I think the last time I was on YouTube was to watch you.
Right. Jeepers.
You were doing little
You're
like songs, weren't you?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, you were sharing on Facebook and posting
Oh,
on
that was
YouTube.
probably at the beginning of the pandemic as well, when
Yeah,
everybody was baking bread and all that kind of crack. Yeah.
I loved that.
Oh, thank you very much.
hmm
Yeah, but that's with YouTube as well. There's the algorithms where you click on, say, something like that, whatever music that you're interested in, and then it keeps suggesting things that you might like, and then it just sort of guides you down this wee way of
Yeah.
thinking, like, and it is tricky. But it is something that I hope will be able to overcome after a while, because it seems like it is dividing people in the States, especially. It seems like it's just a 50-50 split.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I feel like I hang around like for the most part very like-minded people, not like on purpose, just like I don't know, we live close and we've had similar like upbringings and experiences, so we all agree. And out of my like my COVID crew, my tight family, there's it's Josh and Ariel are my friends, my boyfriend and my friend that's not vaccinated, and everyone doesn't. We accept it. It's fine. It does come up in conversation, but always very like maturely. Ariel will. She got invited to go to Iceland with my friend Lindsay, and then at the last minute they realized, oh, she can't go because she's not vaccinated, and none of us were like, that's what you get. Maybe you should think about it. We were all like, damn,
Yeah.
all right, moving on
It's
now. Like,
yeah.
and yeah, Josh is losing work. He's a stagehand. He moves like speakers around for like concerts and stuff at pretty big shows, and certain shows, certain artists, I guess, or who mandates this, maybe he can't work them. Or I think it's how many people are going to show up to work, maybe how many people they need that day. If there's so many, he can't go without the vaccine. And I think he is like starting to want to get it, but he's just like, I don't know, he's just being a baby about it. And I'm done having
Well,
the conversation with
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I was like, you need to see how much I travel. Like, I want him to get it so that we can like do things. Like, I'm not just gonna, I'm dating, I want a travel companion in my
Yeah.
life. I've done the solo thing. It was great, loved it, but I want that for my future. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's well, that's from a lot of people here. People were getting the vaccine because they wanted to travel and
Okay.
not because they were getting it because of their health. Because one of the things
Interesting.
was at the beginning, whenever it was talked about, it was like, great, there's a vaccine, that's it. Everybody gets the vaccine. Or, well, at first it was just the older people will get the vaccine, the vulnerable people, and then grand, and then,
Mhm.
well, actually, if we get herd immunity.
Yeah.
But then we found out that the vaccines don't actually stop you from contracting the virus. And then if you have the virus, you can still pass it on. So that doesn't really make sense anymore for
Yeah.
the likes of traveling. Uh, it because whether or not you've gotten the vaccine, you can still contract COVID and you can still pass it on.
Right.
Perhaps to a lesser extent, the vaccine may uh, protect you more from contracting it, but you still can. But then perhaps it lowers it. I'm not too sure. I'm not too brushed up
Yeah.
on the science of it all, but
I mean, who knows? Like, I feel like that's part of the reason I don't watch the news. We can't trust anything, right?
yeah,
Like, what's
yeah,
real?
mm,
Who's telling us the truth? We're only figuring it out. That's why I like what you're doing. And that's how I've tried to get real information is by talking to people. Like, I talked to my friend Seema, who works in the hospital. Like, what is it actually like for you? I'm
mm,
sorry,
no
beeping.
worries at all.
Um,
I think we could probably wrap it up with that there, if you like.
yeah.
It's been really great to get a chat with you and find out a wee bit more. And I'll uh, I'll send you the video and see what you reckon. And
Yeah. Are you
uh,
compiling a podcast or YouTube or what?
um, here I just have these ideas, and I think I'll try it out and see what happens. So I was thinking about just doing it separately so that it's like just this
Like
video and
episodes?
then upload it and
Cool.
see what people think, and hopefully people can learn a little bit or just getting other people's perspectives. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
I'd be
thanks very
happy.
much, Lauren. Sorry.
Thank you. It was so good to talk to you. We'll stay in touch on social media and call me if you're ever in North Carolina.
I will do for sure. Okie dokie. Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.